Oh,
Oh, great, great.
Karen, can you come up to the table, sweetie?
What do you need?
Are you taking
Yeah,
class?
yeah.
Okay.
So while we're waiting, what's your first name again?
Yeah.
Kiara?
Lori.
Lori? And what's your name?
Karen?
Karen? Thanks. Good.
No, they were just up here.
My name's Steve Coleman. And,
Not here right now. Oh, gotcha.
okay, good. And, here. And this is the class about job preparedness. So I'll start putting that up for you. So job preparedness, what are we trying to do here with that? This is useful to me, so I'm gonna mention it to you. We're gonna take a look at each of these phrases and what they mean and what it means for the class here to sort of help get a picture of this. You have this in your student notes. I think you use that, yeah. Karen? It's the first part of your notes. Do you have a pen or pencil? What would you want? But this, getting ready for a job, getting prepared for job preparedness, what this class, sort of the scope of this class, what this class is sort of about is doing what you can to be ready to be hired for a job so that you can provide for yourself, your family, and be able to give to others. So what we're going to be doing, I don't want to get too far down the road before people are here, is in the first session here, and part of the next section is going to be about the very first phrase, doing what you can. That's what we're going to be focusing on here right at the beginning. And it's doing what you can so that you can be ready to be hired for a job. So there's some beginning work that you need to do that's going to help you get hired for a job. And of course, what a job does, well, we can talk about each of these things. Doing what you can. Nothing in this class that we're going to talk about are things that you cannot do. You can do everything that we're going to be talking about in this class. And that's important. That's important to know because particularly looking for a job just can feel like, can look like, it can feel like this mountain that you can never get over. Or this, and you know that the numbers are, they're discouraging to you. You know that that somebody's advertising a job, you know you're not the only one applying to it. There's a bunch of people, and they're only going to hire one person. Well, that's why we need to focus on doing what we can to be ready to be hired for a job. And doing what you can, we're going to talk about that and get you on that good foundation to know that things that you can do are going to lead to that.
See?
Yes. Pardon?
Would you like?
There's no thanks. I'm good. Doing what you can to be ready, so everything that we're doing is going to be focused on making sure that you know the things that'll help you be ready to be hired for a job. And we'll talk some about this too toward the end of the class. Some of the ways that will make that easier, that will help you be able to get to a point where you can feel a confidence about being able to be hired for a job. Now, the important part of getting a job is that is the path to sort of independence, to be able to provide for yourself, be able to provide for your family. Welcome. Come on right on up.
Sit up front.
Hey.
Sorry.
No problem. We'll work with it.
So you need to sit up here. Okay. Karen, can you sit up here too? Apologize, they're running behind.
Karen, I'll work with that.
Okay, all right.
Wasn't too many people happy.
Oh, so how good?
What's on that?
All right, let me just backtrack so we can all stay introduced here.
Yes.
And you're welcome. I just have a couple of handouts for you. Next week, I'll come and we'll have kind of a whole notebook for you. For today, these couple of pages will give you a start. You have something you can Excellent. All right, so to get a proper start here, we were just filling in a little time before you came. Great. Do you have something to write with?
There's pens in the back of the chair.
Oh, good. Excellent. Super. I'm Steve Coleman, and I run this class, Job Preparedness. Goal is to help give you the tools and help you with some steps that are going to put you in a position to be hired, and we'll talk more about that. I've been in the human resources, the personnel business for 30 years, and I guess that's why they put me in this class. Have any of you taken self-esteem? If you have before, yeah. And I think that's being offered as a core class in June, I think. But anyway, my wife teaches that class, so you'll understand me a lot better once you take that class and see her, because mostly, even around here, I'm known as Julie Coleman's husband, so that. All right. So the sign-in sheet's going around. We have to make sure we sign that every week. And there are fill-in spaces on the pages I handed out to you. And when you get, next week when I give you a full notebook, that will be the case for every one of our sessions here together. So I just want to make sure we go around the room. You tell your name and how long you have been connected with the well. And then also, well, that'll be enough. Let's just do that for now. So we'll start here with Kiara. Does everybody know your name? Does everybody know Kiara?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know each other.
Okay, good. And how many years have you been with the well? Associated with it?
I just became a mentee when I turned 18, but I've been
Okay.
coming here for 3 years.
About 3 years, good, yeah, that's what I mean. And then, your name?
Victoria, I've been coming here since, I guess, over 7 years.
Wow, excellent, good. And then Karen in the back?
I'm a mentee, I've only been here for about 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months. Okay, good.
My name's Christy, I'm a mentee, and I've been here a year.
A year. Okay, great.
I'm Star, I've been here probably close to 2 years.
2 years. All right.
And Lori,
Lori.
I've been with them like 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah, before it wasn't well, we used to go to the rec center.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Yep.
So from a few months to a year, and then all the way up to 6 or 7 years. So a lot of you very familiar with what the well's trying to do. And let me go back to the beginning here of this. This is what the class is going to be sort of about. And I'll go through this bit by bit so that you can understand kind of what we're going to be doing here. But the way I sort of see this class, to get prepared for a job means so you can go out and get hired and get a job. So what we're going to be, the way we're going to approach this in the class is we're going to figure out what we can do to get prepared. So it's doing what you can to be prepared to be hired for a job. And then the purpose for that, and this is an important part of it, is so that you can provide for yourself and your family and be able to give to others.
Hello again.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm sitting back here. Do you have one of the papers for me?
I sure do. Glad to have you.
Yeah, again. I think it's the 3rd or 4th time.
Well, that's fine.
Yes, it is.
That's fine. You just have to make sure you don't give them every answer. Let them
You know
struggle.
what? I got my paperwork from last year, like my book, so.
Yeah.
I'll use your cheat sheet later.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Okay, so let's break this down. First of all, doing what you can. And I told this to the few people that are here at the beginning, but there's nothing in this class that we're going to talk about that you can't do.
That's right.
Everything in this class are things you can do. And the purpose of the things you can do is so that you're prepared, you're ready. It's all pointing to that. And there's going to be lots of good tools for you to be hired for a job. Now, what we're going to do in this first session and part of the second is focusing on doing what you can. And then we'll talk about being ready. And toward the end of our set of weeks here, we're going to even talk about some of the specifics that are really going to make a difference and help you get hired for a job. And I told you it was important, the rest of this, so that is because it's important to see getting a job in its place. What's its goal? And first of all, of course, so you can provide for yourself or your family. Independence. It's getting to where you can be doing what humans have been created to do, and that is be productive and also have all those things that come along with it. So this class does integrate. It integrates with self-esteem. It integrates with the financial things you learn in the financial class, and so on. It hooks in with everything because this is a real important part of your life. The other piece of this, which I think is important to make sure that it's part of the perspective, is so you can provide for yourself, yes, and be able to give to others. Now, why that is important is because it's just not all about you. Life is about the people we live around in our community. Life's about God. And God is the reason why a place like the well exists. And the well is a bunch of people. Of course, Mandy's like a key person. But there's a bunch of people that have donated to the well, given to the well, helped support the well, so that the well's been able to give to others. And you're one of the recipients of what other people have worked to provide for themselves and to be able to give to others. So coming full circle, coming all the way around to the person that God has created all of us to be, is a person that, yes, is independent, yes, that can take care of themselves, but also somebody who is beyond that, in a position to give, able to give, has the spirit to give, the heart to give, and so on. So this is an important context in which to see being hired for a job, and it also tells us something about doing what we can. We need to do what we can to be able to get to wherever it is God has for us in this world. So this is the whole big picture, and that's why it's such a big, long definition that sounds sort of stuffy. And this just is is kind of the purpose statement of the well. I think I got it off of some of our literature here. The well connects women to resources like mentoring, counseling, training sessions like this one, so they can learn how to live above the challenges of life with the help of God. So that's what the well's doing, and so you're seeing this part of it in action. And we sure pray that God continues to bless the well, and that there is a greater and greater impact on not just this community, but maybe in linking up with other similarly minded people for the rest of Baltimore. Anyway, that just sort of tells you my thinking coming in here, my mentality, sort of the idea that I would like to get you to realize is an important context to see this in. And of course, with the well, God is a very critical part of the well. It's a critical part of most of our lives. And you don't have to believe in Christ, trust the Lord Jesus, to be a participant at the well. We're trying to help women with the challenges of life. And we're doing that in part because of what God has done for us. So you don't have to believe that, but I will tell you that the principles that we find in the Bible are ones that make a difference in how people live. And so we'll be presenting things in that context. And I think if you can sort of, this has been happening now and again, but we always get back to the same place, so we'll be okay. But if you are a believer in the Lord Jesus, you're going to find that there are some resources that God has for you that will help do the changing, do the learning that you need to do to be in a position that He wants you to be in. And it always ends up in a place being able to give to others. Not necessarily always financially, but sharing the new life that you have. All right, so that's the background and the purpose of the class. So there's the whole thing. Doing what you can to be ready, to be hired for a job, so that you can provide for yourself and be able to give to others. So, this session's going to be focusing on doing what you can, and in particular, I think I've got one more slide. With that, and the first thing is a principle. You have to recognize the fact that you can change. We all, I saw this out in the hallway here, they have all those signs and stuff. There's this sign, I will leave the past behind. And it's a nice sign, but it's really true all the time for everybody. yesterday was yesterday, it's gone. And you can't help but leave, it's hard to live in yesterday.
You ain't never gonna get it back.
You could try to live in yesterday, and you will end up not changing, not even living hardly. So we all leave the past behind. Today's another day. Tomorrow is a new day. And so with every day, there is the opportunity to change. And this is something everybody can do. So let me talk about that, because you may not believe that. It may not be something that you would have answered that way to. That, yeah, I can change. Sometimes we think, well, I don't know, I've kind of been doing the same thing a long time. I've tried changing things, and it doesn't work. So let me talk about this in this way, okay? This off the board. I can change. What I want us to do is make a list here. And I want us to think about jobs we've had in the past, or put ourselves in the shoes of somebody that's hiring for a job. You have somebody, maybe they own that business, maybe they're just the manager of that business, you know, whether it's Party City or Shoppers Food Warehouse or McDonald's or wherever, but they're hiring. They're hiring somebody. Well, what do they want that employee to do?
Be reliable.
Pardon me? Be reliable? That's excellent, thank you. They want that employee to be reliable.
On time.
Reliable, hold on. Is that, can you read that from there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good, I can keep going like this, good, be reliable. All right,
Punctuations, you're right, punctuation is a good one.
be on time. I'm sorry?
That's what I said. I thought that was a good one. Punctuation is a good one.
Punctuation. You mean know how to do punctuation?
No, I mean be on time.
Oh, punctual, yes, I got you, right. Yeah, absolutely.
And
I mean,
dependable.
what's gonna happen to the business if this employee and everybody else comes in whenever?
It's
You
gonna
got,
fold.
the customers are gonna get
The
upset.
employees will slack
Yeah.
on their job because they'll not care anymore.
That's right. So be reliable, be on time. You said
Trustworthy.
trustworthy is good. Trustworthy.
Hardworking.
Good, there you go. I was trying to think of what's the other side of slacking, but that's really it, hardworking. Perfect.
Not a
Hardworking.
thief. Can't steal.
Professional.
Yeah.
Good appearance.
Professional, did you say that? Thank you. Professional, it's a good one.
Yeah, I got a good one for you. Able to eat crow. Remember that?
Good, I missed a couple in there,
Eat
but,
crow.
okay, so what does that mean?
Flexible.
What does it mean to eat crow?
Be flexible.
To be able to deal with people's crap without
Yes.
saying
Good.
anything responsive back.
Excellent,
Basically.
excellent.
Mhm.
Flexible. There's actually a few things that sort of go to being able to do that. But I'm just gonna take your first phrase. Be able
Ah, it's
to take
It's all the things, yeah.
people's crap.
I know you are.
In a more polite way.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, but it's, yeah, however you say it, it's all the same thing, you know. Completely unreasonable people, or people that have completely unreasonable either expectations of you or whatever, have some kind of attitude. And as an employee, what that employer wants is for employees to be able to deal with that, and you know, flexibility is a piece of that. Be able to deal with that and still keep the business running.
We call it kind of like thick skin.
Thick skin, yeah. That's a good one too.
My boss calls
What
that
what
being
else does thick,
respectful.
what else does thick skin mean? You know, how would you put it in another way?
Being able to put up with things?
Yeah, put up with things, right? Somebody that's not like real easily offended.
Offended, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well,
You know,
that
because
goes
that
above,
works.
goes above and beyond.
That's great. Hold on just a second. I want to finish thick
Okay,
skin.
thick skin.
Because it's
Um,
not only about having a thick skin with customers, but it's
Both your
getting
boss
along.
and coworkers.
Getting along with
Yes,
coworkers.
yes.
It's like high school when you work with your coworkers,
Before you-
honestly, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll inform you.
Right, so just to add one more along that same lines about coworkers is no drama.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't be the one bringing drama into the workplace.
Right.
And you have to be the kind of person that sort of helps.
That's hard to do though.
It is! Oh, is that hard to
But you
do?
can also put gossiping along with the drama, couldn't you?
Not
That's
drama.
I would say it's part of it.
And it
part
also
of
depends on the management,
Right.
because honestly, the way I look at it, 'cause my job right now,
Yes,
you might fire someone because the manager don't like them, even though they're hardworking. But how's that resolving anything? Because you're firing over a crappy manager, one of the employees, instead of the good employee, and then firing the manager and replacing him.
right, good, excellent. Excellent, okay, what else? What else should this employee be? What does a manager want?
Do we have responsible?
Yeah, we have, well,
Take the initiative.
reliable. Oh, initiative, there's another whole category, isn't there? Initiative. Right,
Open-minded?
yes.
No drugs.
Yeah.
Always got my job.
I'm gonna say that a different way, just because there's a whole lot of things that could go in that blank of drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say it in terms
No
of what an
narcotics.
employer is looking for. They're looking for somebody who can focus on the problem, focus on the work, focus on,
Multitasking.
yeah, well, great, good focus. So good focus, multitasking, running out of room. Multitasking, I can also need to spell too. But, let's see, focus, and what else? Be able to focus and, I mean, when you're at work, you have to be about work. You can't, it's not about being about yourself when you're being paid to do a job. And that was the other thing with that, whoever said drugs, whether it's drugs or alcohol or just into your own stuff, or, you know, gotta be texting all the time or something. Whatever it is that's pulling you to self, which is what drugs and alcohol do, I mean, that's the part of it. If people could be drunk, and you couldn't smell it on them, and there was no outward indications, it made them more focused, I'm not sure employers would be upset at it. But it's because they end up being lousy workers. Most employers will say, gee, whatever you want to do on your own time, just come here and be a good employee while you're here. And that's our focus right here is job preparedness. So what else? This group's different. I expected something else, but you guys have done a super job on this. Oftentimes, you know, people will say, they'll see, I even have to do this. I'm gonna put this in red. Run a cash register. Sometimes people say, work the phones, know how to work the phones, a business phone.
The technology, paperwork, I mean,
Right.
otherwise too.
I put this in red, and I also put it on this side. That's why I kept everything on that side. Because these are things, and we're not talking about these right now, but these are things, can you today say, gee, yeah, in class, they said, yeah, you need to know how to work a business phone. So I'm gonna learn how to work a business phone, and then an hour from now, you're ready. No, you have to learn it. So these are things you have to learn. You can't just decide, okay, I'm gonna be good at phones now. But guess what? Every one of these things, can you decide to do it
Right.
and then do it?
It has to be us, has to be in our characteristic trait.
Okay, but
This is something you
We-
have already.
we can do these things. Can you be on time?
Yes.
Maybe you've never been on time a day in your life, but can you decide and tomorrow be on time for something? Yeah, you may have to, in your own head, say, I'm arriving an hour and a half early to make sure I actually arrive on time. But you can do that.
I'll leave her on.
Yeah, it's also, and you're exactly right, it gets built up as habits, and it gets built up, and sometimes personality plays into that. Some personalities have a real hard time staying away from drama, or having a thick skin, or being on time, or being flexible. But it's still something we can learn to do better. We can learn to improve however it is we work now. Because we may be, and I'll say it the other way, we may be the sweetest, kindest person, but oh, when I get with family,
Oh, yeah.
drama.
Always.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's right. And
I
even,
gotta go to school.
even though we're, even though we've got a good personality, we can end up, sort of building up habits about these things. And you know, if you're the kind of person that some of you might be, that you say, look, I may not be a good type of person employee, I mean, I get into drama and stuff, but man, I'm on time. We can build up good and positive habits. The point is, these are things, this category are things we can change, which means primarily, it's not that we have to learn something. There's not a skill, you don't go, there isn't a class we need to go to, that talks about how we can be flexible. We know what flexible is. We don't like being flexible, maybe. And certainly some people get on our last nerve and make us want to say, no, I'm not accommodating you. I'm not going to do something for you. But you don't have to take a class to learn what it is. We sort of know. And these are things we could change. Now, another problem, you were talking about, it can be build up and become part of our character. So what that means is, it can be hard work to do these things, to make a change in these things, because we're working against character sometimes. But good, that's an excellent list. Any other thoughts people have?
I'm really late a lot of the times unless it's work. Even I'm late for work because my children are just
Yeah.
trying to get them ready
Yes.
and then trying to pack my bag
Yeah.
and then trying to get the bag and then
Yeah.
with my children dragging their butts, I'm like, listen kids, make them move.
And that's, we can't, you may say, look, I'm here to learn how to be job prepared, and yeah, I can improve in all these things, okay, that's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna improve in all these things. You can't do it all.
And I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yeah, you can, but he's not calling us to change all of those things in a very short period of time.
Also,
He's calling us, I'm sorry, yes?
some of these are our flaws because that's our characteristic. God made us that way, our flesh.
Right, but there are a lot of these things that if you say in your life, gee, I'm not as good at that, you can improve on. And it's a lot of work. So I would not suggest trying to do 4 of them at once or anything like that. I think it's the sort of thing that we want to say, you know, let's work on one of these, or let's work on 2, maybe at the most. But we'll talk about that as we go a little further on. So some other things that other groups have said as well are willing to do extra, dresses appropriately, solves problems, treats others with respect, accepts advice and criticism. That's a hard one.
Depending who comes from.
Yeah. Good. What else? Enthusiastic. We talked about staying calm, I guess, in one of ours. And team player we sort of referred to as well, right? Excellent. Things that you can learn that would go on the other category we're not talking about yet are computer spreadsheets, stocking systems, inventory, that sort of thing. So, or systems of inventory. So we've got a decent list here of things that we can change. Well, let's move on and let me give you sort of a personal story. You know, when I was a young guy, getting those first summer and weekend jobs, I had a problem, and that was I would steal from the employer sometimes, and that was employer after employer for a while. I mean, it was a habit. I didn't walk out with $10,000 from the safe, but just little stuff. If I found it useful, it was mine, and it became useful in my house. And I had to, it was one of those things that as I got older and started getting sort of full-time career jobs, I said, this is not going to work out well for me in the future. And that I really need, as I think about my relationship with God and say, I'm representing Him, this is a behavior that I have to stop. So it was trustworthy might be a good category to put that in, but I said, this is something I have to improve on, I have to change. And I worked on changing it, and it took a while, because I had built up some things with it. And there may have been some personality things involved. But as I look back on it, now these many years later, I could see after a few years of sort of working on this that I was able to resist that temptation. I wasn't doing that. I was able to make that change in that area. It's hard, but we can do it. Particularly things like not stealing, having a bad attitude, being truthful, being reliable, those kinds of things. We definitely can make progress on changing. And you can see in your notes there, I have sort of a key idea. Everyone can change, and everyone can learn. Knowing you can change and knowing that you can learn are foundation blocks you will need in all of your life. You will need them in all of your jobs from now on. You need to be able to change. You need to be, because you want to grow and develop. You don't want to stay stuck with the person you are now. Have you ever known anybody that they got stuck somewhere in maybe middle school and all the way through high school, or since then as adults, when you see them act, it's like, did you never grow up? Is that why you're throwing a temper tantrum now? Can't we talk about this instead of you just flipping out? And it's sort of getting stuck emotionally at a younger age. And as we work on one of these at a time, we continue to grow and mature into somebody that is admirable. That people say, gee, that person, you can argue with them and they won't explode, and they'll listen to you, they're open, and some of these other things that are here, not drama, they help solve the problem even though you disagree with them, and that sort of thing. And that's what bosses are looking for. People like that that what comes out of them are things that end up being constructive, not destructive. I like the initiative too in particular, where just out of your own initiative, creative things are happening. Good things for the business. All right, transformation. That's what this all boils down to. Transformation. Where over time, as you grow older, and with these years, you actually grow into a mature person with more wisdom, more abilities, and less likely to be caught by one of these areas that trip people up. Transformation. there's a great big science word, metamorphosis. You remember that word or heard that word? It's the process they talk about when a caterpillar goes into that chrysalis and becomes a butterfly. Do I have another picture of that? Yeah, there we go. Here are the stages. Caterpillar, after they finish eating, they sort of spin this cocoon. And then while they're in there, they actually change to their next stage, which is a butterfly. And that's what's happening to us on the inside. We don't have to change. We can stay just the same person we are. But we also have the ability to change. And over time, as I said, like with my stealing, I could end up being a person who doesn't steal, who is trustworthy in their jobs. And we can do the same. And God wants to see our character change. So if you have a relationship with God, then He is at work in you trying to make these changes happen. They're difficult to make. It helps if we have a system or a practice that we go through, but He's at work making this change in us. The Bible calls it transformation. Let me read to you a couple of verses from the book of Ephesians. First of all, the writer Paul is talking to these folks and talking about people that don't change, sort of that context. And he says, that's not the way of life you learned when you heard about Christ. You were taught to put off your old self and be made new in the attitudes of your mind, and to put on the new self created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. So it says that God's created us this way. And with new life in Christ, that's the very thing He's trying to make happen in us. Because we have this nature in us, we should act like the person we now have become. So you have a chart in your on page 2 there. And let's read through a few more verses and see if we can see what Paul's talking about. He says, therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. Well, that's the verse I just read. So take off and put on. Paul is saying, take this off and put this on, like he's talking about a coat or clothing. So taking off would be, if let's say we're talking about, we don't have truth-telling. Let's talk about lying and telling the truth. So what are we taking off, according to Paul? Lying. So it's like we have a coat, that big lying on it. We take that off, and he wants us to put on
Being truthful.
truth. Exactly. So it's just like changing clothes, but we're putting off one bad behavior and putting on the new one. So in your books, in your notes, should be lying is what we're taking off, putting on being truthful, or words like that. You don't have to use my exact words. Let's read a little further. Anyone who's been stealing must steal no longer, but must work, doing something useful with their own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. So this one was for me. Instead of stealing,
Don't steal.
don't steal. Instead, work and earn to share with others. That's the positive, that's the butterfly traits that God wanted me to have, He wants all of us to have. Is a good, reliable worker that shows initiative and is hardworking. Thank you. Bring my thing back, please. Thank you. So you stop stealing and you do something different that's positive. It's not just stop stealing. Yeah, but do something positive. Don't just stop lying. Make sure you're telling the truth. How about the next one? Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling. Be kind and compassionate. Oh, I skipped too far. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what's helpful for building others up, according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen.
I do that to my kids. I'm
Sure. And we all are gonna find these things, sometimes to a greater or lesser deal. But saying mean and hurtful things to others can become a habit. What we're supposed to be like, what God's looking for us to grow into that butterfly about, is saying things that encourage and build up others. Okay, and then the last one I had already started, getting rid of bitterness, rage, and anger, but be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just like God forgave you. So Paul's telling us that we not only are there some things that we need to stop doing or get rid of, but he's saying there are things that we need to do, things we need to put on, like we're putting on new clothes, that represent somebody who is characterized by these things on the right. That's the kind of transformation that's being talked about here. Not just stopping something, but changing. All right. So the key idea on this is change means replacing a bad habit or action with a good action. That's in your notes. That's the key idea. Okay, so for next week, homework. Homework is to change. Does that sound good? Yeah, let's change. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it, we're not going to make it easy on us, but we're going to make it focused. We're going to focus this change. So I want you to look at this list or come up with additional ones and pick one item that employers generally want from their employees, but that you think to yourself, I could improve in that area. Whether it's being flexible, whether it's being able to take people's crap, whether it's getting along with others, whatever it is there, pick one for yourself, and then do that all this week. I want you to practice doing it.
What if we don't work?
What if you don't? Well, here's the thing. You're going to practice it just like you're on the clock and being paid to do that thing.
Right.
So let me just say, if you pick being on time,
Yes.
so any time that you're supposed to be somewhere at a time, you pretend like as a job you're going to get to that thing on time. What we're doing is just practicing changing or improving on one of these areas. In other words, stop being inflexible, start being flexible, or stop being a person that. Well, let me come back to this drama thing, because
That's what I'm picking.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of it in my life.
Exactly.
And sometimes I
If
get
my-
caught up in it.
If my mother
There's a lot of it in my
sets
life.
me off every time she opens her mouth,
Right.
and I say, I need to improve because I just explode back.
Right.
Or I stomp out of the room. Sorry, gone, I'm gone. I need to figure out what a positive behavior is to that. So instead of blowing up, I'm making stuff up here, but maybe with my own mother, she gets on my nerves. It's like, okay, calm down and say, tell me what's the problem right now? If it's that she keeps saying problem things or something. And so what I'm gonna do this week is every time she comes out with a negative thing or a problem or whatever, I'm gonna say, well, gee, what's something that you can or we can change that will make that less of a problem? And I'll ask her that question, and I'll find out from her, and then I'll see if I can do it. But that's a change from blowing up about it.
Either that or you can try to change the subject.
Change yeah, even something like that. If blowing up at her is the drama, then don't let what she says turn into drama and change this. That could be a change in your individual, whatever you think is an improvement on the current thing. Okay? And if there's nothing on here that works for you, let's talk and we'll come up with something for you. Or if you need help figuring out the positive, because you definitely want a take-off and a take-on piece to this. Take-off is, I'm not going to be thin-skinned anymore. What am I going to do instead of being thin-skinned? You know, I'm going to, well, you know, it would have to be individual for you on how to do that. Does everybody have a thing that they want to work on? Set?
Patience.
Patience. Be more patient. With anybody in particular, or just the world? Everyone?
I can
Okay.
test you. Let me take my book for a week.
Yeah.
You'll learn real quick.
You'll learn some patience. And you all have one?
Yeah, I have.
Do you? Okay, and so what you're supposed to do,
I had like 10.
okay,
Y'all were doing good.
do one. Work on one. That's the point. You want to work on one.
If you have too many, you won't do it, so do
Exactly.
one or two.
If it's too many, you won't do it because you can't. It'll be overwhelming. So, what you want to do is pick one, so you focus on that one. And you're just looking change in that. So I think the instructions are, you're supposed to write down what it is, and,
You have to pick one that you want to work on this week, ladies.
yeah, practice that.
Be like Stacy Nova cheese. Got this.
Practice it like it's a job you're being paid for.
Mine was eating crow. I had to take everything my mother gave me.
I gotta go.
Dealing with my mama.
Should I put down one?
Thank
Put
you.
that
So
one down.
write that down, and then also share it and your experience so far with your mentor,
Dealing with his crowd.
you know? Because they're the core of the WELL program.
Yeah.
They are the heartbeat of this thing. I mean, I'm out here teaching a class, providing some information, but share this with them so they can help
So
with their
eating crow means like basically what?
eating crow.
What'd you say it was?
Eating crow means
Taking bull crap.
Taking bull-
Putting up with bull crap. That's what I was
That's
saying.
like the same thing as saying it's thick skin.
without.
Without.
So you can listen to it and even say, yeah, that's tough, without spitting venom back at them. You can take that and
Taking criticism too, when people were
Yes.
giving you suggestions
Just pick
and
one.
information,
just pick
without
one.
like blowing stuff back at
Okay.
them.
Last questions? Last questions? Okay, great. We'll see you next week at this time. Thanks so much for coming.
Okay.
Sorry for being late. There's no pizza.
I know we had to.
I caught you up. It worked out.
Pretty Little Caesar, it's Blaine, Maryland.
So,
We got free pizza and drinks today.
Maryland won, Steve, it was their fault.
Yeah. That line is.
Thank you, can you press that please? Stop it. Steve, would you like a Diet Coke?
Do you want me to throw all these away?
I know you're a Diet Coke fan like me.
no, I'm good for now. Thank you very much.
I just made it. Still recording. I'm gonna drink it.
Is it done?
Pretty Little Caesar pizza. Can't take breaks, if I take breaks, that leaves.
Oh, I gotta get your house.